Hey learners, hope you all are doing well. In the previous session, we saw some programs on control flow. We are going to see many more examples on control flow in our separate series of Python programming. Now let's discuss next topic, that is functions. So today we are going to discuss about functions. So without wasting time, let's start with the topic functions. Now, what are functions? You can say function is a named code block, and that code will get executed only when you will call it. So, again, to repeat, I said, what is a function? It is a named code block. Means you have written some code which is performing some specific task, and to that code we have given some name. Now, this is the function definition. Now, in your program, you can call that function any number of times. And when you're calling it, means you're requesting it to get executed. I guess you got the definition of function. The function is a code block. To that code block, you have given some name, and that code is performing some specific task, and that task is getting executed only when it is called. Now, at the time of call, you can pass any number of values, and the function, after performing the task, may return, may or may not return some value back to the place where it was called. Now we'll see the definition. What is a function? Then we are going to discuss about benefits, what are different types of function, and in this session and in some subsequent session, we are going to discuss about what is user defined function. Then later we'll have some separate sessions on inbuilt function or library function. Now we'll say what is the difference between them. We'll see it one by one. Let's recall the definition. A function is a named code block which executes only when it is called. Then I said when you call it, you can pass to it any number of parameters. So you can pass any data called parameters to function when it is called. Function can return data as a result back to its caller. Means after performing some specific task, it can give value back to its caller. Now, what are different types of functions? So, there are two types of functions. One, user defined function, and second is inbuilt function. Now, what do you mean by user defined function? Functions which are defined by the programmer according to their requirement. Meaning, when a programmer is trying to solve his problem, and then that problem is very large, he is dividing that problem into some sub problems, and then for each sub problem he is writing a function. The function which is defined by the programmer according to his requirement, the algorithm within it is also decided by the programmer, then we'll call it as user defined function. And inbuilt functions means functions which are defined by some third party. That is, the some person has developed it and he has distributed to us to reuse. Means in short, inbuilt functions means functions which are coming along with the software. We are just using it. We are just taking the benefit of that functions in our code, but we are not knowing how those functions are defined. That is, they are third party function. They are abstract to us. We are just taking the use of those functions. Now we'll see the benefits of function. Function avoid repetition of code. Very important. That is, the same code which you need in the program again and again, that code you can avoid it by writing the function once and calling that function any number of times. So it avoids repetition, and with avoid of repetition, that is redundancy, the overall code size become small. This will also improve the program readability. Top down approach means your big problem divided into small problem, then for each small problem you write functions separately, then you call that function. The code clarity is more. Divide the complex problem into simpler problem means functions not only avoid reusability, but they also avoid they also help in dividing the bigger problem into smaller problem, reduces chances of error. Now suppose if you have written a function, then the error, if there is any logical error, so it will be existing in one place only. But if you are not writing the function and you are writing the same code everywhere, so the error will persist in all places. Now modifying a program also become easier. Now if it is a function, you have to repeat that function, you have to write that function only once, and if you want to make any changes, you have to do the change only in one place. But if it is not a function, you have to make the changes at every place where the code is repeated. I guess you got the concept of, you got the definition, you're clear with what is a user defined function, what is a library function, what are its benefits. Let's start our discussion with user defined function. Now already I have stated user defined functions means functions which are defined by the programmer according to their requirement, means whatever is their specific need, according to the need they have written the function. So let's see, a function created by the programmer explicitly based on his requirement are known as user defined function. Now we'll see how to define this function in the program. It's very easy. Easy syntax is given. See, you have to use first keyword def. Def is a mandatory keyword followed by the name of the function. Note that function name should be a valid Python identifier. And then to that, you'll pass any parameters. And these are strictly variables which you are going to use inside the function body. Parameters are only comma separated list of variable. You don't have to give data type because Python is a loosely typed language. After that, strictly colon word is there, which is a rule of Python. And then the block of statement. Note that block is indicated by indentation. That is a rule of Python. And at the end, optional, there can be return statement. It is not necessary that every function will return anything. If it doesn't return, it returns none. So return and value. We are going to discuss about return in the next slide. What is the work of return? But from its English word, you might have understood it is giving some value back to its caller. Now again, remember def keyword defines the function and is mandatory to create function in Python, while return keyword returns some value after the operation, but this is optional. If you don't use return, it is going to return none. I guess the basic syntax of function definition is clear to you. Def followed by name, which is a valid identifier, comma separated list of parameters, and then body, and at the end optional return statement. Guys, I hope you have understood the concept of user defined function and how to define a user defined function. Very simple syntax, def keyword followed by name of function, which is a valid Python identifier, then pair of round bracket, and inside that optional, comma separated list of parameters. Note that parameters don't have data type, as Python is a loosely typed language. After that colon, below that the code body or the task which your function is supposed to perform, and at the end optional return statement. Remember, the code block is to be indented. That is the function definition. And note that unless and until you call it, the code inside the function definition won't get executed. Let's continue with our discussion. Next, we'll see what do you mean by parameters. Now, parameters are the values which you pass to the function definition or which you pass at the time of function call. Means when you define at that time also you receive some value, they are also parameters, and when you call you pass some value, they are also called parameter. But we have given different names to it, called as actual parameter and formal parameter. Now what are parameters? So they are the values that are provided while defining the function or during the function call. The values which are provided during the function definition are called formal parameters, or you can also call it as dummy parameter. So what are formal parameters? The parameters at the time of function definition. As an illustration, we'll see def is a mandatory keyword indicating start of the function definition. Add is the name of the function, which is a valid Python identifier. Then pair of round bracket, and then we have passed two parameters. Now see these two parameters num1, num2, they are passed at the time of definition, therefore they are called formal. They are going to receive some value when the function is going to get called. So at the time of call, when you pass something, that will be received in these parameters. Note we haven't given their data type. Now inside you have performed some task on these parameters. At the end you are returning something which is not mandatory, as I have already stated. Now tell me in this example, num1 and num2 are formal parameters. The values which are provided during the function call. Now when this function definition is over, but the code is not going to get executed unless you call it. Now when you call it, at that time you pass some value to it. Those are called as actual parameters or argument. For our case, suppose in print I'm calling that function add and I'm passing 5,6. Now 5,6 is passed at the time of call, therefore they are actual parameters. Now some point to be noted: formals are strictly variables, whereas actuals can be anything. They can be constant value, expression, variables, call to other function, that is a return value from some other function call, anything. Okay, let's see one small example on function. We'll define one function. I'm giving name to it as add. I'm passing two values to it, a comma b. Now these two values are at the time of definition, therefore they are called as formal. Inside I'm creating one local variable which is not mandatory. I've created one local variable. Now you'll say, what is local variable? We'll discuss it in the next topics. Okay, what are globals and what are local? I'm returning the value of that C. Now this value will be returned to the place where this function will get called. Now I'm calling the function print add. I'm passing some value 10, 20. Here I'm passing some constant value. You can see 30 is returned. You can also collect it in some variable. Add 5, 6. And now if I print that value, print x, you'll get the result. I hope you understood this example. Let's move on to the next discussion, that is return statement. Now, return statement, first of all, is not mandatory in every function definition. Now, whenever a return statement is encountered, the execution of your function body will stop. In short, when you want to terminate a loop, you use a transfer statement break. Likewise, if you want to terminate function execution, use return. Now, what are the possibilities of return? So you can write return and some value, or you can write just return. Again, I've mentioned already, return is not mandatory. If it is encountered, the execution of your function body will stop and the control will be transferred to the statement where it was called. That is, it will it will continue its execution from the statement after the place where it was called. Now, return value and just return. Return statement returns the value from the function where it is called. This is not mandatory within the function block. Return statement also terminates execution of function. If no return statement, then the default return value is null. It is also called as none in context of Python. Just to illustrate the use of return, let's see one simple example. Suppose I'm writing a function A. Inside that, I've written print hello. Then I've written return. And then again, one more print by. Now note that by statement will never get executed. That's all for today. As always, I keep telling, keep learning, keep evolving. And don't forget to click on our bell icon. Thank you. God bless you. See you in the next session.